The imprisoned deity rent its magic fence. As with the sound of thunder and of seas, vast barriers crashed around the huge escape. Immutably coeval with the world, circle and end of every hope and toil, inexorably drawn round thought and act, the fixed, immovable peripheries effaced themselves beneath the incarnate dread. Beneath the incarnate's dread. So this is the huge escape, we might say, which is the escape of the spirit. The spirit in the divine is as if trapped within the prison of ignorance, of unconsciousness. It has chosen to be so. It has entered into the darkness, it has entered into the ignorance, but it's still there. Slowly through the change of consciousness, through the transformation of the being, breaking down the resistance that is there in matter, resistance that is there in the body, in the life, in the mind. Slowly the consciousness comes out. And then it becomes completely free. This is the spirit's freedom and greatness. The spirit is inside, it is infinite, it is eternal, but it is become infinitely small, apparently. It slowly comes out of the cell of darkness, cell of ignorance, breaking out. Just like in the small cell, Sri Aurobindo had the experience of the infinite. It is in the state of consciousness. We are in small cells, we live in tiny cells of ignorance. And that is our home, that is our natural state. So this is the imprisoned deity rent, that is, tore its magic fence. It is there. It is as if purposely it has closed himself in the small, hiding, so that we we give all our attention to the surface life of body and life and mind and thought and experience of the outer world, whereas that inner presence sits quietly inside. But as he has become united with the inmost presence, unite your consciousness within, so that the consciousness within becomes the consciousness without, outside. Slowly the barriers break down. As with the sound of thunder and of seas. Sea is life, energy, thunder, the breaking down almost of matter, of the world, of resistance, of inertia. Vast barriers crashed around the huge escape. So this is so powerful. It is this secret prisoner comes out. That is what we have to work on. Slowly recognize that there is within us a presence, a divinity, which we usually remain completely blind to. We don't recognize its existence. We don't look for it because we don't even know it is there. So it waits. It waits for millennia. But because it is there, the present world as we are, in which we live, our life, our body, our mind, does not give this final sense of fulfillment, of joy, of happiness. There is always a sense of something incomplete, imperfect, because that absoluteness of perfection is not there in our outer nature, which are in states of change. The outer body, life, mind, they are on a constant state of change. Not necessarily always for the better, but always a state that is restless, moving, is not stable. And when the whole being has become quiet, has opened itself and has become aware of that inner presence, then that presence comes out. Immutably, that is why it is immutable, unchanging, undisturbed. immutably coeval with the world, coeval as old as. It is from the beginning of creation. That divine spirit is there from the time the Supreme manifested the creation. He put himself into his creation. He has created a creation and he has put himself within. In each being he is inside. He is waiting for the time when the outer being will be ready to break down and allow that inner presence to manifest. So, circle and end of every hope and toil. Every hope asks for that sense of fulfillment, of perfection, of struggle. But we don't get it because we rely on our surface nature, our surface consciousness. But what is hope? It is asking for that which is not there within our reach. We ask for something beyond our reach. We ask to struggle for that. This is not perfect. This is not absolute. It is to that absolute that I want to move. So this presence is the end, the goal of all our efforts. Inexorably drawn around thought and act, this presence is drawn around every thought. Thought is an attempt to capture some truth, some light of knowledge. However incomplete, it is an instrument of light. So it is drawn. Huh?
Circle and end of every hope and toil. So end is the goal or aim. Circle means
End. End is the purpose. Circle is the periphery. It is the limit. You draw a kind of limit and say, this, I live within this circle of my normal condition, but I want to satisfy myself to find that highest joy, the highest love, the highest happiness, the highest light, the highest power. This is the every end of human hope, to always want more, to want to reach a state which is at present not within our reach. So we have to struggle, but we don't realize it cannot be. If we live on the outside, this will always keep on coming as an obstacle. We have to realize that that inner presence is the goal. To bring that out into the open, which is actually basically a change of consciousness. The divine consciousness is within. That consciousness comes out into the open, so that our outer being becomes an expression of perfect consciousness, with its life, with its mind, with its body. Otherwise, this limitation is always drawn around every thought, every action of mind and life and body. There is always some kind of something that stops, that limits, because we are made of the stuff of imperfection and we identify ourselves with that imperfection. That is why they have always been there. These are fixed, immovable peripheries. They remained always the periphery of ignorance. The basic problem is ignorance, our connection with darkness. We are born of ignorance, we are children of darkness. So this has to be replaced by that absolute knowledge or experience. We are children of light. We are expressions of the divine. Break down that, first of all, the acceptance in the mind that I am a human being. I am a human being by saying that I accept that I am imperfect. I am mortal. That is so strong, so deep-rooted. If I can break down that and say, I am an expression of the divine has made me according to His will, and I become an expression of His will. So, these peripheries, these obstacles, these circles, and you might say barriers, efface themselves beneath the incarnate spread. The incarnate, naturally, is the divine embodied in divine. Incarnate, not just the divine in a body, an avatar. Each of us has that divine physical presence of the divine within us. It is as if the meeting of the physical and the spiritual. They are not opposed. Inside this small physical being, material being called man, is the incarnate divine. He wears a body. This is the avatar. It comes from the word carne. In Italian or in Latin, carne means flesh. One who wears a body is not just a thought, it's not just a flame, it's not just an idea. It is a presence. It is a real existence. The dire velamen and the bottomless crypt, between which life and thought forever move, forbidden still to cross the dim dread bounds, the guardian darkness is mute and formidable, empowered to circumscribe the wingless spirit in the boundaries of mind and ignorance, protecting no more a dual eternity, vanished. This is the main verb. The dire velamen vanished. Vanished, rescinding their enormous role. They had been given a huge role for a very long time. This velamen is a kind of, as Archana will tell you, it's a kind of, how do you call it, a tissue?
It is just on the wound, that skin which
around this, yes.
But still, it is not, and it's mixed with pus and.
Yes. So,
Dire.
dire. No, it is this impurity, this imperfection in which the nature of life and thought. It is life wants to be perfect. It's an expression of energy. It is trapped in the say.
It is like that exactly. That there is still some pus, there is still some dead tissue, but the pure skin, the real skin, removing all that.
It has to be removed. Exactly. So around our nature, inside the womb, or outside the womb. Outside the womb there is a covering. And that covering is, as she says, filled with pus and all kinds of things. That is why the dire velamen, it is just like our nature, there are so much impurity, so much imperfection in the world of life and thought. We have to live naturally. Life is energy, but life becomes a field of desire, a field of ego, the field of indiscipline. This has to go. These are the impurities. Thought is also an urge towards knowledge and light, but thought has a very strong desire to prove that my thought is right. My understanding is the only one that counts. So that is again that which drags us back to the world of ignorance. The ego is there. So, which is why the dire velamen and the bottomless crypt, how deep is this problem? It goes down into the very origin of darkness, which is the beginning of the involution of the divine, has come plunging into the ignorance, into the inconscience. It is from there that the whole movement of manifestation has begun. So in that world of absolute, where the divine presence is totally involved in the sense it is covered, like this new birth, the new child is completely wrapped inside the whole, not the new child in the womb, but the outside of coverings that are impure, imperfect. And this has been going on for a long time. The world of life, the world of matter becomes a field of density, of ignorance, of inertia. Between which life and thought forever move, forbidden still. Still also means always. Like in French, you have encore and toujours. They mean the same sometimes. So forbidden all the time to cross the dim dread bounds, to break out of the boundaries of darkness. Whatever there is in our mind, in our vital, is an urge towards a new manifestation. It is always accompanied by error, darkness, imperfection, until from within there is a change, until we purify and perfect ourselves from within. This darkness is a guardian, so that we don't break out into the light too early. There has to be an inner purification, an inner perfection, which is what we are reading in the synthesis. You have to prepare yourself by self-perfection, to accept, to move too early, you might say, through an intense concentration and intense tapasya, if you try to move directly into the world of a new light and a new consciousness without perfecting your lower nature, without purifying your lower nature, there will be something that can end in disaster. Therefore, these darknesses, made of inertia, of dullness, of heaviness, they do not allow us to climb that high. They are guardian darkness. For a very long time, this darkness is our protection. We don't jump straight into a new state of consciousness without the earlier stages of change and preparation. So the guardian darknesses, empowered to circumscribe the wingless spirit. It keeps the spirit caged, like a bird in a cage. The bird can't spread its wings. Inside us is the cage. The bird is the symbol of the soul. Usually it is a symbol of the soul or the spirit. But the soul is caged. It can't spread its wings. These darknesses are like the cage which does not allow the innermost spirit to open up. So these darknesses come within the boundaries of mind and ignorance, protecting no more a dual eternity. Now, the dual eternity of darkness on the one hand, as well as the eternity of the Supreme Light. So these two planes are there, the forces of unconsciousness, semi-consciousness, life, mind, all these things come. On the one hand, there is an urge towards progress, towards change. On the other hand, there is a hindrance because of ignorance, imperfection, and darkness. So man is caught between these two worlds. Something that pushes him upwards, something that holds him down. And this is his dual eternity. He is eternally caught. He has written the song of Trishanku. This is the image of Trishanku, caught between heaven and earth. Now the main verb is the fixed peripheries. Up to now they were fixed, now they vanished. They are no longer required. This is the change of consciousness, total change of consciousness in the experience of Sri Aurobindo. He himself has made notes in his record of yoga. Vanished, rescinding, their work is over. They've withdrawn their functions, rescinding their enormous role. Once, as long as this duality is there is always the interplay of two forces of light and darkness. No longer there now. Once, figure of creation's vain ellipse. That is why this vain really means empty. Vain is often associated with a certain form of pride, which is actually self-love. A person who is vain loves himself a lot, thinks himself to be marvelous. But it is empty, it is really meaningless. It is without significance. So creation is vain, in the sense it is empty. It goes up, it goes down. It doesn't move in an exact circle, it moves in an elliptical form. It's like an egg. This is the universe that is called a Brahmanda. That is why it's called Brahmanda. The shape of an egg. It contains all life. It contains a new possibility of manifestation. That is the Indian image. That in that egg, a new birth is waiting to emerge. This is, but it has not yet broken down. The outer shell has not broken. So this outer world of ours, which is our mind, our life, our nature, just moves around in the same circuit over and over again and reach nowhere, like the earth herself. She turns around the sun over and over again, does not touch the sun, does not move away from the sun. It is drawn to the light, it is afraid of too much light. It doesn't go very near. This is us. This is like that. We need a little bit, but we can't. This is why we remain in the same plane, the same circuit, over and over again. So this life and thought, which was figures of creation's vain ellipse, once the expanding zero lost its giant curve. The ellipse broke. That circle or ellipse broke its curve and it became more and more a line. A line is often associated with the eternal, with the infinite. A line doesn't have a beginning, it doesn't have an end, it just stretches into eternity. So for Ashwapati, or for Sri Aurobindo, this sense of division in the nature, that there is a lower nature and there is a higher nature. The lower is there, within the lower is hidden the higher. The presence of the divine is there in the darkness, in the ignorance. And it will be there until we have prepared our beings to be able to receive, to empty our vessel, our adhar, and make it as pure, as clean as possible, to be able to contain the pressure of light, of knowledge, of love, of power. So this is a preparation. Then your spirit is free to emerge. The old adamantine vetoes stood no more. Until then, it is as if that spirit is forbidden to emerge. There's something that is stopping it. That is the veto. The power that does not allow some new proposition, a new proposal to express itself because of certain, you might say, it's a political term, objections that others have. In politics, every nation is first concerned with itself, its own benefits. And therefore, whenever its own benefits are threatened, there is a veto. It is as if the role of the world of darkness threatens that my role will be over, I have to leave. Darkness says, ignorance says, I have to go. Death will finally say, I am dead, I have to go. But until then, it is the ruler. It is the one that makes all the plans. So the old adamantine vetoes stood no more. This is the change of total transformation of his consciousness. Overpowered were earth and nature's obsolete rule. Obsolete. It is outdated. Ignorance, inconscience. It is a stage. This state of the human being. Man is an intermediary being. That is why Sri Aurobindo describes man as an intermediary being. He is not totally part of the world of the lower creation. He is born out of that. His connection with the world of ignorance is always there, deep-rooted inside him. But there is a flame, there is a consciousness, there is an aspiration. So he is attracted to the light, he is attracted to the truth, he is attracted to beauty, he is attracted to perfection at the same time. So he is caught between these two. And this is why we are neither here nor there. We are bound by both worlds. It is no longer this duality, this division is obsolete now. Because inside us there is this quarrel. Mind is the world of two-ness. You say the world of two-ness. Right, wrong, high, low. This is called dvandva. Dvandva is two. Dvandva is quarrel. We are our own enemies. Something pulls us up, something else drags us down. So we are pulled in both directions. This is obsolete. It has gone out. You have to turn, make a choice. Again and again, therefore, Mother says, make a choice. You don't have to give up anything outwardly. You have to give up your connection with ignorance. The whole problem by itself is not a problem for a long time. It was a guardian, because we can't leap into the light right away. But once there is the certitude that that is exactly what I am here for, I am on earth to reach that other state which at present is just slowly growing inside me. I have to reach that other nature, level of consciousness. I can no longer bind myself to the lower creation. And the bondage is there in every cell of my body, in every cell of my mind and thought. There is the presence of error and darkness. It has to be worked upon so minutely. It is so time-taking. But then the eternal will wait eternally. But man's willingness, it is his willingness to take up the challenge, because man is the only being who can take up the challenge, who can say, let us try. That is why Mother gave so much importance to goodwill, to make an effort, to want to. The rest, the help will come. If the entire being is willing, then the opening will begin. Otherwise, there is a profound resistance. The resistance here in the next sentence, image of the snake. Snake is the coiled energy, which is the foundation. Snake, when it uncoils, can also take us up. That is the whole center of force that is at the base of our it's not just the base of the spine, but the foundation of our nature. We are standing on the foundation of darkness, but we move from darkness to light. That coiled snake or the sleeping dragon, when the Far East they use the image of the dragon, not the snake. In India, the image of the snake. It uncoils. Through that immobility of absolute inertia, it has gathered enormous strength. Immobility gives strength. There is no wastage of energy. This python then rises up. That energy comes, that is the image of the Jnana Yoga, Raja Yoga. It will go up the spine, touch every center of consciousness. In our being, there are 7 centers, chakras, they are seats of conscious force. The base of the spine is the lowest. And then there is one up above the head, they reach up to the head. The same python can connect the lowest with the highest as it climbs up the spine. This is the image, he's using that image. The python coils of the restricting law could not restrain the swift arisen God. Otherwise, the python coils keep us down. The strength of darkness and inertia is huge. We may want. In all sincerity, there are some who really want to change, to grow, but they cannot achieve it by themselves until they break out of their servitude to inconscience, to ignorance. Abolished were the scripts of destiny. There was no small death-hunted creature more, no fragile form of being to preserve from an all-swallowing immensity. The great hammer beats of a pent-up world heart burst open the narrow dams that keep us safe against the forces of the universe. The soul and cosmos faced as equal powers. A boundless being in a measureless time invaded nature with the infinite. He saw, unpathed, unwalled his titan scope. So here, the swift arisen God that is rising from below, the inconscience is the source of all consciousness. From there, all change grows. The image of the python. Deep from the heart of that inertia, where the divine has involved himself, that in that quiet silence it has gathered strength. And so, through our body, our life, our mind, that energy, if you can connect with the divine, takes us up. Then we are no longer slaves of limitation. Destiny is where we are trapped in a particular series of cause and effect, because trapped in error. If I make a mistake, I have to pay the price of pain. If I move in the world of falsehood, I have to accept the consequences of the falsehood, the inconscience that will follow. It is natural. This is karma. It is destiny. It has to be. It's not as if I say I am devoted to the Divine Mother, so destiny is will not affect me. It's not possible. Every particle in me is not devoted. Every particle in me is still there, connected with the inconscience. The ego is not dead. Therefore, the law of destiny is really at work. And yet the force is there. So it is this battlefield. Man is a battlefield. There is a light that presses from above. There is a resistance from below. And that resistance we have to accept. If we are sincere, if we are honest, we say, yes, there is in me. I am not perfect. Just because I am here living in the ashram under the umbrella of Mother's grace, I can be free of all consequences. That is total insincerity, total falsehood. All the more I should be more sincere. Because I am living here, because we are so close to the origin of the source, central source of the divine power, because this is so. This is where they have lived, they have worked, so this place has that concentration. You may go anywhere else, it is there all over the world. True, it is there everywhere, even Auroville, wherever. But here, this place has a certain concentration no other place can have. The physical existence, which is one reason why Mother, who had asked that there should be a house built for her near the Matri Mandir, when she said, when she was asked, why don't you go there? She said, no, how can I? Samadhi is here. The presence is here. This connection we have to remember. We take it easy. That is why we think that because we are here, the grace is always there. The grace is there. It is so, it is there, but we can't receive it. Our vessels are closed, our vessels are dirty, we are twisted. It's like a channel that the water will not flow freely, because in our being there is so much impurity. So long as it is there, there will be the consequences of death and pain. But if we have become embodiments of the divine, the incarnate has embodied himself in us without hindrance, then the scripts of destiny will not work. Which is when the whole purpose of the poem is conquest over death. Then there can be conquest over death. One of man's earliest dreams, to be able to conquer death. That can happen when the whole being has become an embodiment of the divine consciousness in every part of its nature. And this is the yoga Savitri will do in book 7. And therefore she is ready to meet him in book 10. And they have the clash. And book 11, death accepts. Death shows his real face, the divine supreme. Death is also an expression of the supreme law. As long as we are not ready for it, the scripts of destiny will control us. Not Ashwapati, not Sri Aurobindo. Abolished were the scripts of destiny. There was no small death-hunted creature more. That is why. This is man, a small death-hunted creature. He was not there anymore. No fragile form of being which we seek to preserve from an all-swallowing immensity. See, the all-swallowing immensity is infinite. They seek to preserve what? My little self. I am in touch with the eternal. I have certain connections, sometimes an opening to the light, to the grace, but I am not free of the ego, my small individual unit, as I am a separate unit. I want to keep that. I am still me. As long as I am me, separate from the rest, I cannot, it's like a drop. Mother gave the image, you're like a drop in the ocean. But if you are attached to this drop, to your drophood, you can live in the ocean, but you'll still be a drop. Surrounded by the infinite, you'll still be a small drop. This is what we often are. Separate units, tied to our littleness. This is the fragile form trying to preserve itself from an all-swallowing immensity. But there is a divine force that is always at work in spite of everything. Evolution of consciousness and manifestation of truth is going on. Whatever it is, the divine has created the world out of himself. Slowly this himself is breaking out from his hiding as if in seed form, is coming out into the open. So the great hammer beats of a pent-up world heart. The heartbeats are there, the presence is there, hammer beats as if the force has to beat against opposition. Like a hammer, break down the opposition which is as hard as a rock. The opposition of darkness and ignorance. But behind it is the world heart, the divine conscious presence, the grace, the love. It is breaking down our opposition. It has taken a long time to come where we have reached today. It will take another long time, how long we don't know, to come out completely from the world which is still now in the service of ego and darkness and error and stupidity, all these things that seem to have taken over today, they also have to be wiped off. So there has to be hammer beats. We should break down this huge opposition. The great hammer beats of a pent-up world heart burst open the narrow dams that keep us safe against the forces of the universe. This is our ego. We hide behind the dams of the huge pressure of the universal energies. I am behind it, I am safe. I cannot otherwise stand the power of too much divine consciousness. A little bit of grace I can accept. Too much power, too much light I cannot bear. This is finished. This stage of his growth and change is over. The soul and cosmos faced as equal powers. This is the destiny of the individual. The soul is the individual, the cosmos is the universal, the field where the soul manifests itself. The divine within is the divine around. The cosmos is where the divine is everywhere. To be able to recognize the same self, to see himself in all things. It's again an experience that Sri Aurobindo has described in some of his sonnets also. To see himself in all things. The one presence, wherever you are, that consciousness has spread into the universe. I'm not a separate being in the universe. I am the universe. And yet the I is there. It's a play of the divine. The soul and cosmos face as equal powers. A boundless being in a measureless time. That limited human nature, living in a limited field of time. We are given always a certain amount of time and space, allotted to each. That is my destiny, that is my fate. I have been allotted this much time, this much space. Within this I have to do whatever I can. These allotments are not there any longer.
The soul and cosmos faces as equal powers.
Yes.
What does that mean?
That's what I was saying. The soul is the individual. You, your true self, your inner self. You say, this is my separate individual. It is my individual, it's a divine manifesting in each individual. For a long time he does not manifest, or for a long time he stays hidden. But it has now come out into the open for Ashwapati. It is not in the universe, it is the universe. The soul is one aspect, and the divine universal presence is another aspect. There are three aspects of the same divine. Usually you speak of the divine as beyond all things, above all time and space, above before creation. That is the transcendent supreme. The same supreme is everywhere, all pervading, all permeating, everywhere. The same presence above is all around. When you see that, each moment, each time, each occasion is a manifestation of the same divine. Within that, each individual is an embodiment of the same divine. When you don't make any longer any distinction, the divine above, divine around, divine within, it's the same divine. I am not in the universe, I am the universe. I am not as a separate individual. Separate, yes, for the play of the divine, he has created the individual. But I am part of the same. It's like one wave in the ocean. The wave is the ocean. It falls back into the ocean. It is the same thing, it's not separate. So when I realize I am I, this I is the all. This all is the above. What is above is the divine. What is around is the divine. What is within is the divine. We don't make categories, separate compartments. As long as I am following my mind, I have separate compartments. You say, I live in the world. If you can identify your consciousness with the whole, you say, I am the world. But you have to identify your consciousness truly, not your ego. A person who has a very vast, vital ego can feel that his energy can spread all around him in a vaster world. So he can dominate, and that is what great conquerors often feel. They can take over, for a while at least, large portions of life and the world. It makes them special. This is a titan. The titan has a certain amount of energy. He can control, but he doesn't have that consciousness. He has a huge ego, which is why sometimes he is so strong, the titan is so strong, that the divine himself has to come down and break him down. So you need, that is the nature of the asura. The asura, by his individuality, which has become a huge ego, as if obliges the divine himself to come down to destroy. This is the destruction of Mahishasura. The mother herself has to come and destroy the asura. Ram has to come and destroy the Ravan. Because these are huge beings. They are highly developed beings. They have enormous vitalities. They are not mere monsters. They are not. Ravan was a great sadhak. Enormous amount of sadhana. He wanted to conquer to acquire immortality. He is not a mere person. Why do you think he was given 10 heads? It's 10 times more than any individual. So vast is that intelligence, that power, that energy, so that you need a greater force to break it down. And these are turning points in the evolution of the earth. Each time a new avatar comes, it's a new turning point in the evolution of mankind. So these are huge barricades that have. So the soul and cosmos faced as equal powers. A boundless being, this is where the individual becomes equal with the transcendent also. Transcendent, universal individual in a measureless time. That is why there is no time. Time is the field of manifestation. Beyond time is eternity. The individual can become one with the Brahman. This individual enters into play in the world of manifestation. This is the transformed universe, invaded nature with the infinite. The infinite is manifested in every finite particle of manifestation. He saw unpassed, unwalled his titan scope. Here, titan is enormous. It's an adjective which is not asuric. Here it means something that is very strong, very big, unpassed. Because as long as we live in our limits, each of us has a path, has a journey to make. You have your road. For him, all is an expression, every form of experience is an expression of the divine play. No limits, unwalled, his titan scope. So this is the truth. It's a very powerful page. Because he has described these experiences in his record of yoga.
That the more the grace, the more sincere we have to be.
Absolutely.
Both ways, like,
Huh?
the more sincere we are, then we'll get a little more grace.
The sincere is what? What exactly? This word is used so easily. He is a sincere worker. I have heard this so often. Because he works well, he works regularly, he works with great devotion. At that certain level, that is sincerity is total impersonality. You have wiped off yourself, your ego is not there. You become an embodiment of that pure divine consciousness. Mother says the first quality is sincerity. Isn't it the most difficult? As long as there is a demand, there is an ego, it is not possible.
So ultimately, sincerity is total impersonality.
Sincerity, total sincerity alone will take us through, will bring the change.